I am lucky enough that I have now seen every comic book movie of 2018.
I've been waiting for this.
You're just short on one because you were very, very busy. You got a film you're trying to put out, so you haven't had a chance to get out to see SpiderVerse yet. Although I had a spare ticket for you, and I invited you.
I know.
But you got work to do, I understand.
I know.
So I've had a lot of people saying, John, now that you've seen all these things, what are the top 5 comic book movies of the year? So, folks, I know Kevin Feige, Jeff Johns are all sitting around watching this video right now, sweating, trying to find out how I rank the comic book films of this year. I know you're all sitting at home right now sweating to find it out. So let's go into our top 5. I'm going to give you guys now the top 5 comic book films of the year. Now, before we get to the top 5, I can give 2 honorable mentions. 2 honorable mentions that did not make it in my top 5, but I got to say, I like both of these films. So it hurt me not to put either of these films on, okay? One is Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I really enjoyed, Ant-Man and the Wasp. And the other is Venom, which I really surprisingly enjoyed quite a bit. But this was a good year for comic book films. It's a good year because, like I said, I enjoyed Venom and I really enjoyed Ant-Man and the Wasp, but neither of them could get on my list here. So with those mentioned as my honorable mentions, let's get into the top 5, and we're going to start with number 5. The number 5 best comic book movie of the year? Aquaman. Yes, I liked Aquaman more than Ant-Man and the Wasp and more than Venom. I went to see it again the other night.
Wow, how'd it hold up for a second time?
You know what? I think I enjoyed it even a little bit more the second time around.
And what about the octopus playing the drums?
I was able to just kind of blink when that happened. I just kind of forget that happened. I mean, look, still not a perfect movie. There are a few things that I think James Wan needs to sharpen his tools on a little bit, and there were a few moments I could have done without. But you know what? Overall, it was a damn fun. You know what? At the screening we were at, I forget his last name, but Yaya, the guy who plays Black Manta, they came out and introduced the film for us the other night at the screening at the.
He must have been just stoked.
He was super happy to be there.
Stoked, yeah.
And everybody loved him. Jason Momoa, I've been thrilled since day one that he was cast as Aquaman, even in Justice League. I was thrilled when James Wan got announced. They deliver. Look, this film is a win for Warner Brothers and DC. And if this is going to kind of set a starting point and a precedent for what we can expect from Shazam, Wonder Woman 84, maybe even Birds of Prey, which I'm skeptical about, there could be some good things on the horizon for Warner Brothers and the DC universe. So Aquaman, thumbs up to it, and it gets the number 5 spot for my comic book movies of 2018. So let's talk about number 4. Number 4 is a movie I swear when I saw it would have ranked much higher. But it's Deadpool 2. I love this. We're only at number 4, and we're talking about how much I love these movies.
Yeah.
Deadpool 2, you had a monumental task in front of you to try to live up to that first Deadpool movie. Is it as good as the first Deadpool? I still wrestle with that. I still wrestle a little bit whether I prefer Deadpool 1 or Deadpool 2. I think I'm leaning more towards Deadpool 1, but Deadpool 2 was a fabulous follow-up. Again, the fourth wall breaking hilarious. They upped the action. The whole Juggernaut stuff was fantastic. And the Juggernaut versus Colossus fight was so good. And, of course, introed by Wade when he goes, CGI big guy fight, and then they go so much.
And of course,
fun.
you have the Nickelback produced Josh Brolin.
Yeah, the Nickelback produced Josh Brolin. I mean, who played Cable really well. I love the way Domino played in it. The whole misdirection about the use of X-Force in the movie was awesome. I mean, you'd think when they're pumping X-Force in the marketing, and then they kill them all off so fast, you'd think we would have been disappointed. But it was so funny that they used their marketing campaign to set up a gag in the movie.
A great gag, too.
A wonderful gag. Just fabulous. So Deadpool 2 is my number 4 favorite comic book movie of the year, which moves us into number 3, Black Panther. And I will go so far as to say, not only is this one of the best comic book movies of the year, it was probably the most important comic book movie of the year. I mean, because when you look beyond just the movies, what it kind of represented for finally making a strong financial case for the need for diversity in our films and all that sorts of stuff. It took us into a direction we have not had our comic book movies, especially in this new age of comic book movies, have gone before. But let's not talk about the importance of the film. Let's talk about the quality of the film. I just remember watching this thing from that first kind of battle going on when he is rescuing, well, he thinks he's rescuing his Lupita Nyong'o.
Right.
Like we're in that opening shot. That was fabulous. The whole drama of him. Michael B. Jordan, like just a fabulous villain. I think you could make an argument that maybe even Michael B. Jordan maybe could get a Best Supporting Actor nomination at the Oscars. I don't think he will. We're not seeing that play out, but I won't be surprised if he does. Terrific story. There's a little bit of wonky CGI, yes. Where there's some things that were done well but could have been done stronger, sure. But overall, one hell of a solid film. And like I said, probably the most important film as far as all the things that it achieved. Like, what were your overall thoughts about Black Panther?
Well, I really enjoyed Black Panther. I think the comic book stuff, like I thought the Killmonger taking over Wakanda was a little rushed and forced.
It was a little rushed.
And I could have watched another hour of Killmonger and T'Challa just going at it philosophically and power struggle for getting people on your side. But I mean, look, it's still a comic book movie. I love Michael B. Jordan's performance in this film. I love the entire cast. This cast, one of the strongest casts of any movie of the year, not just a comic book film, and not since Star Trek: The Motion Picture has bald women been as alluring. The Dora Milaje in this, they're the coolest. I mean, if anybody deserves a spin-off film,
it's the Dora Milaje.
Oh my God, I want to see. First of all, make some. They've made a Shiri hot toy that's coming out.
Yes,
but where's the Okoye hot toy? Come on, man. One of the greatest outfits ever. I think the potential for creating spin-off movies and world building, all of these characters are great. I'm so happy that they played a part in perhaps another movie on your list, that we did see Wakanda again. I thought that was one of the most fun things of the year, was being introduced to this world and then being able to catch up with our characters a mere few months later.
Yeah, that
was so great. I really like this movie. I caught the very end of this movie on Netflix the other day, and I love the very end. Not the credits tags, but when they go back to the beginning and they buy that building.
Oh yes,
and that's where the Wakandan embassy or their outreach. That's the first place that's going to be. I love that scene. It's just a really. It's not just important.
I thought you were taking me to Disneyland.
Yeah, it was great. That's great.
All right, well that brings us into our top 2 spots. So, what's the number 2 film? I'm shocked, but it is Avengers Infinity War, is my number 2 favorite comic book movie of the year. You know, it's funny. I put up a poll on my Twitter, just a cold poll. Just said, guys, out of the films that have come out so far, and at the time, Aquaman and Spiderman and the SpiderVerse had not come out. So out of all the films that have come out so far this year, comic book films, what were the best comic book movies? 83%. And I've got a tiny amount of followers compared to some. I've got a big amount of followers on Twitter compared to others, but I have about 80,000 followers on Twitter. 83% said Avengers Infinity War. 83%. What this movie... The really intriguing thing about Avengers Infinity War, it is a movie that goes beyond its own 4 walls. Avengers Infinity War is not just its own standalone movie. It is a build-up and a culmination, if you will, of all that has come before it in the MCU. Mm-hmm. It is... My one criticism of Infinity War has always been... It is a very, very full-packed movie, and I feel at times in the movie you can feel it, bursting at the seams a little bit. There are some points in the film that I thought it's a little over-heavy, but oh my God, the way that the Russo brothers navigated their way through this film with the sheer amount of characters they had, with the sheer amount of storylines they were trying to do, and we're trying to involve the weight of it all while making it still feel very individual. It's such an achievement and an accomplishment. And it's one of those movies, not just comic book movies, that you sit there and the movie ends and you're still just sitting there. And not even just waiting for the post-credit scenes. You're just sitting there because you're just kind of marinate in the experience you just saw. And I got a huge kick out of going back to the theater over and over again, picking out the people who I know have not seen this movie yet, and then just kind of watching them. I remember Ray and I went to a screening of Infinity War, and we were sitting beside this dad and his kid, right? This dad and his kid. And the kid, I don't know, how old do you think his kid was? Like 10? Maybe like 8, something like that, this kid, right? And so Ray, who has seen the movie, right? He's like, hey, so who's your favorite? And Ray's talking to this kid, right? And the kid's like, Thanos. And me and Ray are like, not for long, kid. But anyway, and then, so this kid's all excited, right? sure enough, by the end, when everybody's dying, Ray and I look over this kid, and he's got his head buried in his dad's jacket, like he couldn't even watch anymore. But then hearing people as T'Challa dies, and you're in a theater, like, no, you hear people in the crowd, and when Peter dies, no, and it was such a great in-theater experience watching that movie.
Oh, I couldn't. I was sitting next to the great John Schnepp and Amy Dallin. We were sitting there together, and we were, all of us, as I like to say, deliriously excited to see this film.
Right.
I couldn't believe how much fun I had watching it. Like, yes, it's the culmination, but these characters and this film was so huge, and the fantastical elements. Yeah, you want to watch Thor turn on a dead star? You got that in this movie. I mean, it was you want to watch Thanos put the beat down on the Hulk? It's in this movie. It's kind of like the old Key and Peele sketch when they're talking about Liam Neeson's. The Neeson sketch.
Liam Neeson?
Yeah, when they're talking
So good.
I mean, I felt like Key and Peele watching Infinity War, and I want to do a sketch where I just talk about what happens in this movie. But when you get to the end, like, I didn't see it coming. Like, I wondered, are they going to do the whole thing with the snap? I had said on the Heroes, I'm like, if this movie ends with that snap, I'm going to be a satisfied customer. Not only did it end that way, but then they just dusted half of these beloved. And the moment where when Peter Parker's like, I don't want to go, Mr. Stark, and I shed a tear. Like, I'm like, oh, that was a gut punch, man.
Although, again, it comes back to my one, and everybody knows how much I love the MCU. My one big criticism of the MCU has always been their fake death. Nobody actually died. They always fake death. So as much as I love that scene, it was neutered a little bit for me because I knew, well, I mean, yeah, they're killing these people. We all know they're coming back. So kind of alleviated. But you could tell there were people in those theaters who didn't know they were coming back.
Right.
With these huge emotional outpourings in theaters. It was such a great experience.
Yep.
And that leads us into, I got to tell you guys, for me, shocking. My number one comic book film of the year is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And I am sitting here more shocked than any of the rest of you watching this video that I'm putting at my number one.
Yeah.
If you guys will remember back when in the day, number one, when they first announced this movie, I thought, well, this sounds a little desperate on Sony's part. I mean, we can't do Spider-Man live action, so let's do Spider-Man animated. And then the first trailer came, and while a lot of you guys loved and ate up that animation style, and I think you like the animation style too, it didn't work for me. I'm watching the animation style in the first trailer, and I'm like, nah, this is going to be such a throwaway film. And then the previews start to come, and then we start hearing that people are seeing the film and they're loving it and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's better than I thought it was going to be. Maybe it's actually really good. Okay, that's great. I was not prepared for how good, forget comic book movie, how good of a movie this is. Robert, one of the things I've been saying the last couple of days about this movie was that you can tell that when they sat down and sat at their writer's table, they went, let's not make a good animated film. And let's not set out to make a good comic book movie. Let's start with all the building blocks of a great movie, period. Great movie. What do we need? We need good narrative. We need compelling characters. We need good conflict. We need resolution. We need heart. We need emotion. We need humor. We need all. And they started from there. And I will tell you what else. I've never cared for the Miles Morales character. Just yet another derivative knockoff character. I've never hated the character.
Sure.
But oh my God, I'm a Miles Morales fan now, man. I am a fan now. The way they handled this and the way they handled the Peter character and Spider-Ham and Spider-Man Noir voiced by Nicolas Cage and all this kind of stuff. It is a beautiful, take the Spider-Man element out of it. And this is a beautiful, well done, perfectly executed motion picture that I was just giddy after it was finished. And I remember walking out of that screening I saw it at and just wanting to just immediately turn around and go back in. The movie that I probably would even have thought been on my top 5 of the year ended up being such a pleasant surprise for me. And just, it is not only, I think, the number one comic book movie of the year, it's got to be in my top 3 or 4 favorite movies of the year, period. It's just so good.
Well, I've been hearing that from everyone. I'm going to see the film today, finally. You know who's really loved this movie are all my writer friends. A lot of my TV writer friends.
I know why.
You know, I'm surprised by that because you don't usually hear them so effusive over like animated films because a lot of animated films tend to be a little formulaic, but people are really singing the praises of this movie. A lot of my industry friends, which really surprised me, but I guess not. I mean, a great film is a great film, and it's recognized across all everyone's opinion. This is the most, I don't think I've ever heard people so excited about a movie before. And people love this movie. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, so just to highlight once again, guys, the top 5 comic book movies of the year with all, a special recognition to Ant-Man and the Wasp and Venom, both of which really good, solid, fun comic book movies this year. I can't believe they're not in my top 5, but my top 5 are number 5, Aquaman, number 4, Deadpool 2, number 3, Black Panther, number 2, Avengers Infinity War, and my number 1 comic book movie of the year is Spider-Man Into the SpiderVerse. Miles Morales is for real, folks. Go and check out this movie if you've not done so yet, and enjoy.